Hi there, Emily here. Welcome to the Folklore of the Earth. I have another interview today with Derek Chapman, and today we're going to talk all things portals, land energies, and just see what comes up. Hope you're enjoying this series so far, and I would love to know in the comments any of your experiences about any of this. I know a lot of you have commented and it resonates, so that's really lovely to hear. So how are you doing, Derek? Welcome.
I'm doing fine, Emily. And how are you doing?
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm in the middle of a lot of changes in the world. Really feeling all of the shifts happening and integrating them, and just understanding kind of like how it's like that butterfly effect, isn't it? Like one thing that's shifted on one side of the world and how it impacts another, and I'm really feeling that at the moment a lot. Yeah. So can I ask you today about, I know the end of the last session I brought up, and this is something that I feel is really misunderstood a lot, that I mentioned that I wanted to speak to you about your experiences with alien abduction, because I then became involved because we did some work together on that. Can you tell me, what does that mean to you? And I think it would be really useful to tune into kind of like what it has meant to you through your life, and then what does it mean now? Does that make sense? Kind of like a difference between like what it presents as, but also what is it really? Does that make sense?
Well, as I said, I was about 13, 14-year-old when this happened to me. And I was just out in the farm, because I was brought up in the farm, and I looked up in the sky, and there was like something like the sun or the moon was hanging there. And of course, me being me, I just thought, well, it's the sun. I didn't give it any more thoughts, actually. And then the next I know about it was that time had passed by, and I didn't know nothing about it, actually. But what I did see was just this huge big, and it was like a sun. It was round. It's not like a flying saucer like most people see it. I didn't see it that way. I saw it was like a round shape, like a dome. And I've asked many questions about this, but I didn't really get anything come back. But what I did see when they put me back down into the earth, I saw this blue light, and it was a blue light coming from underneath the flying machine, if you want to call it that. And I looked up, and I could actually see the mechanics of the flying saucer. And of course, I just took to my heels and run. And I went down to see my mum, and she said, oh, well, if you're here for a cup of tea, because we always stop at 3 o'clock for a cup of tea, and it was about that time, my mom said, no, a whole hour's gone by, and she said, you're not getting a cup of tea now, so I just had to go outside again. But I didn't know anything about this, and I didn't know what it was about, but I knew that I was taken up and taken up into this machine. But I asked many times why I was taken up, but I was never given an answer. And this was the start of when I just went on with my own work. I didn't think much more about it, actually, Emily, until I was enlightened up again. And as I said, I was 14, I must have been about 40 when I was brought into the light. And of course, this came back into my thoughts again.
So can I just ask, when you were that 14-year-old boy and you had that experience, how did you assimilate that into your consciousness? How did you make sense of it, or did you not?
I didn't really. I didn't tell. I did tell my mom, but she wouldn't have believed me. So nobody believed me, and I did tell my brothers as well, but they said, "Oh no, you're just speaking rubbish." So I never said nothing more about it. To be quite honest, I never said nothing more about it. But I do know that when I went up there, you know, people say, "Oh, they get examinations and things like that." I know I didn't get that. I know I didn't get that because I came back down and there was no marks in my body whatsoever. So they didn't do experiments on me, and I knew that. But later on, when we did work together, things came up, as you said, and new understanding came into me, and I was told more of what and why this happened to me.
Yeah. So what's your understanding now about the experience, and would you actually call it an alien abduction? Is that what you would call it now? Or what would you, how do you assimilate it now? How do you understand it now?
Well, I would say it's transmitted up into the spaceship. But remember, this was in the middle of the afternoon with me. It wasn't in the evening. I wasn't in my bed or anything like that. And everybody says, "Oh, they're lying in bed and they feel paralyzed and things." I never felt anything like that. Nothing like that whatsoever. I was taken up in this machine, and it was in the afternoon, and it was 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon that this happened. So, to me, my experience, I think, probably is vastly different from what other people's experiences is this, I would feel.
Oh. And tell me, why do you think this happened to you? If you can, if you have any understanding of that.
I didn't know why it happened to me, but I do know now why it happened to me. And now that I have got the knowledge, but we can go on and speak about later on, but now I do know why I was done that and what they did at that time. But at the time, when I was that 13, 14-year-old boy, I just didn't think nothing much about it. And I never thought about aliens. I never thought about anything like that. You know, I was just a boy growing up. And I experienced that very, very much so. And what I do know now is that I was taken up in the spaceship, and we went around the moon and came back again, apparently. So I've been told. So I don't know. But from that experience then, I have been into spaceships again many, many times from that experience. Yeah. But not until I was lightened up and more knowledge came into me. Because knowledge is everything. Knowledge is what it is.
So, why do you think now that this happened to you? Is this to do with your soul's journey? So, the way I understand people's experiences from my side, like as a shamanic healer, I know that I relate to the world or people's lives in terms of their soul's journey, which would mean that if something like this happens, I would be asking questions like, well, has this person had any previous contact with the galactic beings? Has this person got gifts to bring to the world which this experience is assisting with? And because when I always think that the alien abduction headline is like, it's quite a kind of a tabloid headline, like some nefarious beings from outer space that kind of taking over. But I really want to understand. I know that we're communicating between frequencies, between dimensions, but I have a real desire to kind of make sense of this in terms of your soul and the beings specifically, because I think we can only understand these things in terms of our own souls and the specific beings that connect with us. So what do you understand of particularly your soul and your experience? Can you pull that together specifically around you? Because I want to move the narrative really away from something that it isn't. And I want to move it really specifically into what it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I know now what it is because we've done the work. We've been doing this work, and I was enlightened up. And it was to do with my soul. And apparently my soul, long time ago, and I saw this in my vision, my third eye, that my soul was, in past lives, was, what's the word? It was shredded into pieces and spread across the whole of the universe. Now, I didn't know that my soul was that, but my soul was gathering all the information and all the parts of it together. So when I came into this world, which I am a person of my soul, apparently I came into this world with another soul. I was born with another soul. And this soul, what they say, is a guardian soul, which is there for me until a certain time in my life. And what happened was, that certain time in my life was when I was taken up when I was 14 years old.
Okay.
And they exchanged my soul at that time. Now, I know it maybe sounds really weird. I thought it was really weird for a start too. But when I come to more understanding, I can see why my soul did that. Now, when they exchanged my soul, my old soul was there with me, and the other one went wherever souls go, I don't know. And in this, I was being brought up by my other soul. And this was when he awakened me up. And he did waken me up. And when he awakened me up, my soul came and spoke to me many times. And again, just like what I was saying, I don't meditate for that. He was just there. He was just standing in front of me. And he looked an old battered soul. And he really did. And I said to him, God, you look old and battered. And he said, well, I've gone through an awful lot. And now I'm healing. And now I'm taking all my energies together. And you're doing this, and you're helping me doing this. And I said, well, that's brilliant. And he was saying this to me. But he never told me this spaceship had anything to do with him for a long time after that. It was like I didn't get this information until I met you, and we did work together on my soul.
Do you feel that you are given the information that you need at the time?
Yes.
When people talk to me about like divination, or they want to know specific things about their soul's journey, and I always say to them, well, you're going to be given one step at a time. You're not going to be given the whole picture, because if you know the whole picture, then you're not in the process. And there's something about the soul's journey that keeps you very much in the moment, isn't there? It keeps you kind of like, well, you're doing that at the moment, and then you're going to be moving on to the other thing. And
yes.
What I find fascinating about this is that it only makes sense when you join the dots going backwards. You would never have been able to stand there at that moment and see it all going forward.
Exactly. And I wouldn't have known. But anyway, we did the work, and my understanding came up and up. And then my soul came back and spoke to me many times after that. And we did the work with you, Emily. and he collected all his energies and all his parts, and he is absolutely completed as one. So I bless you for that, Emily. I really do. So thank you for that immensely. And I'm thanking you in part of my soul for doing that. And he was a totally different soul after that. And then there was one day he came and spoke to me, and he said, Derek, he says, I have to go away. He said, I won't be speaking to you for at least 4 to 5 days. And I said, oh, where are you going? And he said, I'm going to different dimensions. And he said, I have to collect knowledge, and I also have to interconnect with the other dimensions that I need to interconnect with. And for my healing, for my total healing. So he did go away. And me being me, in the middle of 2 days away, I tried to call him in, but he wouldn't come. he was not there. And so I said, okay, fine. But he was away for about 7 days before he came back to me. And then he came in full pelt, as you could say. And he said to me, do you feel a difference in my energy, Derek? And I said, my God, I feel totally different in your energy. What have you been doing with yourself? And he said, I've been going to the 5th dimension and many other up higher dimensions, he says. And now, he says, I've got more information. And he says, I will feed you the information. He says, the information is coming down and you'll get information too. And he says, it's very important, and as he always said, it's very important that you're a person. Because he says, we can't heal this if we're not a person. So that's interesting.
Isn't that incredible? Because it links back to like the land, the divas of the land as well, that they really, really need us to recognize them and to bring them into being through our noticing and through our love and our care. So I really want to bring you back to the 14-year-old who had this experience, and what did they do in the spaceship? Why was your experience different? Because I know that so for example, what my shamanic practice has really changed over the years, and I've become aware of implants and imprints coming in from nefarious sources to create confusion. So we've done land healing journeys together, where we've actually come up against galactic beings which were not benevolent, and were actually coming into a space to create confusion. And I found that absolutely fascinating, because what it's reflected in the spaces where it's happening is confusion, often war and conflict. Now, go back to that 14-year-old, and I'd like to know, what did they do? And I'm kind of like, I want to say with you. I know it was to you, but I believe, or on some level, it was a we, because we know why we come. Why we know why we're coming in. We know why we're incarnating. On some level, parts of us knows why we're incarnating and knows what's going on. So why? What happened when you were there?
Well, it was interesting. When I was about 5, 6 years old, I went out and I lied down on the grass and I shouted up, God, why have you put me back here again? I was 5, 6 years old when I did that. And I didn't get an answer. Of course, they wouldn't answer me. They wouldn't do that kind of thing. They wouldn't answer me. So I did wonder why I was here. And I know now why I'm here. And I know why they wanted me here. But to go back to your questions, yes, there's aliens and aliens as far as I'm aware. There's good ones and there's not so good ones. And that is correct. And what I've been told, what Degger told me about aliens, because he didn't really like be the aliens. He said there's some of them come in here into this world, and he said they do cause havoc. They really do. And way back, he said, they actually shifted the world into a place where we are now that made humanity the way it is now. But it shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be this way at all. And
but that's where we're going now. I was just saying that where we're going now is about correcting that, isn't it? Now, do you feel that so what happened?
Well, to be quite honest, I don't know what happened at that time when I was 14 years old, and I didn't think much about it. But what I do know now is I am connected up into the Palladians, and I have got a huge connection with the cosmos. We all have in a way, but I ask myself, am I an alien? Maybe I am part alien. I don't know. But I am who I am. Because I've asked this question many times. And I've asked Dega who I am. And he just says, you are Derek. And that's all you need to know.
Of course. Tell me about the soul of all.
Oh, the soul of all, yes. Well, apparently, at that time, I was given this, what they call the soul of all. It was implanted in me it was, I don't know if it was implanted, but it was around me. And what I know about the soul of all is it came through and talked to me when I awakened. And I says, and it came to me and he said, oh, I'm soul of all. And I said, what the heck's the soul of all? And he said, I am the soul, but he said, every energy of the universe is within the soul of all. Every energy. And as I said to them, is that dark energies too? The dark energies can come to the soul of all, but they have to go through cleansing to come to the soul of all. They can't go carry on the way they are. So some of them are not cleansed. And that's interesting because some of this energies is not in with the soul of all. Because I know, because some of the energies was coming to me and asking me to be into the soul of all. And I said, oh, well, and they came through me. And I said, well, why are you coming through me? You don't, but I always put the question and they always answer me back, but you are the soul of all. I am the soul of all. So what does that relate to? But what I know now is that I was carrying this soul of all the time from when I was 13, 14 years old until I met you and did the work with you, and we went down to the goddess. And I was told when I went down there the first time, and we did get a huge big healings and everything at that time, that I had to give the gift of the soul of all to the goddess. So I gave the gift of the soul of all to the goddess. And Dega was standing beside me at this time, and he told me that it was the right thing to do, it was connected, and this is what you needed to do. So I gave the soul of all. And I said, whoa, what does that do to the goddess? And the answer I got was that she would be able to connect to everywhere in the universe because the energy is there. And she hadn't been doing this for a long time. So she'd been isolated a long time from the universe.
Yeah. So what I'm tuning into when you're talking is we did this work in December 2024, didn't we? The frequency of the soul of all when it was implanted into you wasn't able to communicate, but now perhaps and it's incredible because I don't know whether or not the energies that gave you this soul of all knew that actually it wasn't able to tune in until such times as the frequency on Earth changes. But my work is so interesting that to connect with you, because you, like you say, your soul is used to going up in spaceships, been used to traveling the cosmos. Mine's very much earthly, and I'm really, really connected with the goddess. So I just find it incredible that when we do the work together, when we do the land healing together, we've got the great above and the great below, the masculine and the feminine. And it's turned out so many times when we've done the healing work that that's just been exactly what is needed. The recalibration of the masculine and feminine. Now, what the goddess said to me about the solar ball was that she needed, it was like she saw that as kind of like a radio, a tuning device, a communication device, a telephone, so that she was then able to communicate with the other planets, with the other energies. Because when we first connected in with the goddess, it was almost like there wasn't the awareness of what was really going on in the rest of the cosmos. And, you know, it's so incredible how it all times in with events on Earth, as in people talking a lot about the raising of the goddess, or the reconnection of the goddess, the divine feminine. And in this work, in this circumstance, in this specific arena, what that means to us, or what it's meant for me, what I felt with the goddess, is that we can feel her love now.
Yeah. She's connecting to where she needs to be connected. And the all has done this. And it's taken the frequencies of the whole of the universe together. And in doing this, it's taken it down into the goddess, the earth, because the earth is so important for everything. And we are human beings of immense ability. Now, I never use the word power, because power is totally different from ability in my eyes. Power is like power over something, power of doing something. I don't do that. I've got the ability to change things, which is totally different. The word is different. And I hear other people saying, oh, you know, they've got the power to do. And I said, no, I shout out to them, it's not the power, it's ability. And that's very important, because the frequency of that word changes everything so much easier. Because the frequency of ability is totally different from power. Because power has been used and abused so much in this land. But ability, they never used the word ability. So it's totally different. It's more virgin. We would say it that way. So it goes in, it penetrates a lot better. Because the words that we use penetrate a lot. And it's a vibration of that word. And it's all about vibration and energies. And this is what it's all about. But going back to the soul of all, you know, I was told that I was a carrier of this, and I said, well, why was I the carrier of this? Why did they choose me to do this? And I have asked this question many times, and as I get back, why not? So I said, well, I don't know why not. But anyway, I did have this carrier, and I carried it right up, because they knew that I was protected. And they knew that I wouldn't use it and use it until it was the right time for it to be into this land and into the earth. And I know that that is correct. And in doing that, I am really humbled that they give me this opportunity to do that. And I'm very humbled indeed to carry that. I am.
What have you witnessed, Derek, since the solar ball was placed? Because I witnessed myself, the goddess, receiving this piece that she knew that she needed to be connected again, that she needed to be heard again, that she needed to be able to communicate again. And I am so interested in language. I'm a linguist. I love words, poetry. And what I witnessed was love, just love flowing through that solar ball, flowing through that device. And the impact of that, the kind of the rippling out of love being received through the galaxy, through this piece, was for me just incredible to witness, and so profound that I know just by witnessing that the world has already changed immensely. Do you want to just speak about what you make of that?
Well, when I give the gift, you're absolutely right. But she needed this to radiate her energy to where she's meant to be. She, in my knowledge now that I've been receiving, I know she's been isolated for so long. And in this isolation, she's done the best she can. But now is the time. And this is the year that was going to happen. The energies is coming through from the universe, and there's a huge connection into the universe, and there's a huge connection into the feminine side, because the feminine side is so needed in this world today, and this is where the feminine side needs to stand up for herself, if you want to call it that, and be more herself. Because that's important. Now, I also know that the energies is pulling the earth and pulling the earth into the cosmos in a different area. Now, why is it doing that? Why is it pulling the earth? And why is the earth needing to be pulled out of this? And the simple reason is what I call the black veil. And I see the dark veil. And this dark veil is going. And this dark veil is all about control of the humans, control of everything. And we're leaving that behind because we're moving forward. And the earth rises in its consciousness. The people rise in the consciousness. The people are connected into the consciousness of the world, so that it's all rising together in the oneness. And in doing this, it is leaving this dark veil. The dark veil cannot and will not be able to survive. So it goes back to wherever it was invented, wherever it was made. Now, a lot of the humanity and humans make identities with their own power, if you want to call it that, or its ability. And in their ability, they create things. We create. We are gods in ourselves. And people don't realize this. And people don't realize how we can do this. But we manipulate, the energies come down, and this dark energies manipulate all that they want to do for the humans. And it's like the humans are like food for that, for the emotions and everything that we're feeling. And they feed off of all this. And this is what they feed off. And this is what we're giving them our power away, if you want to call it that. So why should we do that?
Wow, Derek. So I'm just going to move us into now, because you're talking about how people manifest energies, entities, and thought forms, and how they actually become alive. You know, the and which is magic, isn't it? That's the basis of turning thought into form, turning one element into another. And we do this consciously or we do this unconsciously. And so much of what has already been created in these areas is unconscious. Now, I want to pull what you've said about the soul of all, and I also want to link it with what you're saying about the energies of the earth, because we connect with the energies of the earth, and we've done a lot of work together around portals, around the energies within the earth. So connecting the blue light energy of the goddess, the great below, with the you are from your experience with the abduction, and I'm going to call it your connection with the Pleiadians, that you have been working with them, and I've been working with the goddess, and we've been bringing these energies through the earth into different sites to bring healing, and that's what's been needed. Now, what I'd like to speak about is how does somebody know in a piece of land, in an area, if there are entities, nefarious energies working through the land which are having an impact on the people, on the energy?
Yes. Well, we in my understanding and what I've been doing work with, we've got the ley lines that's going through the earth. And the ley lines is where the energies travel and manifest themselves for the earth as well. And they go through many, many areas of the earth, and many areas are totally different energies from a lot of the different ways that they are. So it's hard to explain, Emily. I can walk into a bit of a land and I know it's not right. The energy's not right. You can just feel that it's not right. How do I explain that? That is very hard to explain, you know. But the only way I can explain it is it's like a heaviness. It's like something is not correct. The energy is not flowing. The frequency is not at the right frequency. And this is why, as I said to you in the last video, this is why I stood at the edge of some of the fields. And I realised, because I said to that guy, oh, what energy am I pulling in? But I wasn't pulling in an energy. I was actually pulling in a vibration. And the vibration was going through the land and stimulating the energies for the good energies to come back in, and the energies that we don't need has to leave. They have to leave, because when the light comes in, when a bright light comes in, these energies can't stay there. They just can't stay there. And this is what we are. And this is what we are. And this is what we are. We are a bright light. We are like a lighthouse. And so we stand there. And that's it. and that's why the land is always saying, what's happened to my people? Because it needs the people. And the people is the light that stands there, and it just goes poof. And that's the only way I can explain it, and that's what it does to me. And it just clears this negative energies and negative beings. They just fly, they just go. They can't stand it because it's painful for them. The light is painful. I've heard them howling because I was standing beside them. And I mean howling and howling. They just can't stand the light. So this is why the light is coming in from the universe, and this is why it's so important for the earth, and this is why it's so important for the earth to move on, so that these negativity things are left behind.
So as you're talking, and you're talking about when you see the light, when you express and witness the light, the darkness can't remain.
Yes.
Now, you're talking about that in terms of land. What I've witnessed on the land that I'm on in our sessions is that I've seen, I've sat in circles of people, I've witnessed things, and I knew that I was seeing a lot of darkness. But what I wasn't aware of was how, on seeing that darkness, I was initiating its collapse. And I just as you were talking then, I was like, wow, that's really, really so powerful. A lot of the time when this is where we're kind of really coming into kind of like spiritual sovereignty, and we're kind of really trusting ourselves, because I can see that when I came to this land that I'm living on at the moment, there was lots of stories about kind of discontent and things like that, and different things happening. And it was a real draw for me to kind of like not like find out what's actually going on. And it wasn't until my friend died recently on the land and I connected with his soul that I was shown the full story of how identities of the land connect with people's souls and get them entwined in their narrative and their motivations. And actually, until you can kind of like really detach yourself and only work with the light, then people end up being entwined in the issues of the land. And just as I'm speaking, I'm getting war zones coming into my mind, and places of conflict where it's almost like there's an active part of the land which is pulling people into these stories and things like that, and they then become agents of the energies of the land.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you stories that the work that I've been doing and what I've been saying. I live down here, and I live in the Scottish borders at the moment, and there's an abbey here just beside me. And I went out and I just said, I'll just go to the ley lines and see where it goes. Because they build this abbeys and churches and everything on the top of ley lines, because they get the vibration of them coming off. And I just went and I found out where the ley lines was, and I just said, okay, fine. And I didn't do anything about it. And then I came back home. 3 days later, there was this soul came and spoke to me. And I said, you wanted to go to the light. And I said, where did you come from? And he said, I just came from the land. And it was stuck in the land. And I said, okay, and I put it away to the light. But oh my gosh, when immediately I did that, there was thousands of them coming up. And I said, whoa, what's happening here? I can't do this. So I told my guides and everything, well, deal with this. I didn't know what I was doing, and I said I didn't do anything, and they all came from the abbey and from the lines, the energy lines, the ley lines of the earth, and they were all clear in the earth. And this soul was trapped in there for God knows how long, hundreds and thousands of years for some of them. So, in clearing that, which is very important in the work to clear, because the earth is rising, they can now clear, because this darker energy, darker veil energy, is losing its ability. So they're losing it, and they're getting freed up and coming up and coming and being taken to the light. And we need to, the light beings of this world needs to do more of this work. Because there's more and more trapped souls going to come out, and it's easy to do. If you feel like that way, just ask for advice, ask to come, and they'll come, and the beings of light will come and help you to get them out of the land. They're coming
This
out
is
of
the
the land easily.
Yeah, this is the sacred work of soul tending, Derek, isn't it? It's the fact that we, as a sacred isles, we have had so much bloodshed, war on this land, and the first pieces of work that we did together. I mean, I'm a psychopomp. I really understand the importance of sacred and safe journeying of souls once they have passed, particularly when it's been in horrific circumstances of war. And that came through from the plants so strongly. When I started working as an aromatherapist, it was like, no, don't work with the plants of the other countries. Your work, Emily, is of this land. So I was given the gorse, the alder, was given the nettle, really, really important. Why? Because and the thistle, they were clearing the land of all of the energies of war. And the witch hunts, that's really, really, really close to my heart. On this land I'm basically sat between Pendle Hill and the gallows in Lancaster. You know, they would have walked through here. It's the War of the Roses area. And we started working together, and the psychopomp allies that I have, they just wanted to shift the land straight away because it affects people. What people will feel is they'll be walking through and they'll feel like a dense energy or a sadness, but not really know what to do. And it's because we haven't been a culture that has tended our dead, that has had clear and pure ancestral practices. And what I'm bringing back through my work is that I think it's really, really important that every family needs a role of somebody who's going to do this really, really important work. And one of the things that happened in this country is that we killed the witches who were, and the main reason that they were killed was because they were the people who were tending souls. Communicating with the dead was one of the reasons that people were killed for witchcraft. And this is how the land gets clogged up with control and other energies because it hasn't been cleared. And that's what we found, isn't it? And then the work we did in the prisons, you know, that was all to do with like releasing shame, people that have been humiliated and died in humiliating circumstances, clearing that energy. And what a difference it makes. You know, what a difference it makes. And I remember that we actually released them, didn't we, from the prisons, and we gave those souls exactly what they needed.
Well, what I've learned since I did this with Abby is I didn't do anything, Emily. All I did was stand on the energy lines, and I didn't actually. I said, "Oh, that's a nice energy line," and I said, "Oh, that's nice." So that was a lesson to me. Then my light goes and does things that I don't even know it does.
Right.
And it went in there and it cleared all that. Well, cleared all that souls. There's two left apparently that wouldn't go. They've got free choice, so they wouldn't go. So they're still lying. They're still there, and I know that.
So we can go back. We can go back, Derek, and we can do that work. I think for anybody listening, if this is really kind of resonating, I'm just going to share that I'm going to be doing an ancestral tending and psychopomp course later in the year, really talking about this work because, like you say, you stand on an energy line. The energy line is flowing in the direction it needs to flow. That's why the sacred sites were on those energy lines. And so remember when we did the work with the water, we were creating an artery. And, you know, if you put if you imagine the land like a body, okay, like your human body, and you put, for example, something on a certain artery or a certain vein, it's going to flow along the bloodline and it's going to go where it needs to go, isn't it? Because the body essentially works on the same principles as ley lines, you know. So a ley line is a line that's between energetic points, and there will be a magnetism within that, and the energy will flow within that. Why is that really important? Well, it's important that energy moves. It's simply important
Yeah.
that the energy moves so it doesn't get stuck, you know? And I just feel like I really wanted to kind of come back down to some basics there, because then it really helps you to understand what might be happening on the land where you're living. Now that we've cleared that up on the land, I want to talk about what's happening up there in the cosmos. What have you noticed about the ley lines and the stars and the planets, for example, Derek?
Well, I'm finding out that the ley lines is not quite so important as they were, because the energy is coming in a different way. And going back to your vortex, there's your vortex is coming down from the universe and coming into the earth, and there's a lot of vortexes being stimulated again. Now, I know that we did work on vortexes, Emily, and there's one in particular that wasn't far from where you were. And I got the information through that this vortex had been used in the wrong way, and they were taking light, and no, it wasn't light. It was, what do they call energy of the life from the earth. And I said, whoa, what's the energy of the light? And they said, well, that was coming from a goddess. And they were using this energy, whoever was up there using this energy. Now, going back to spaceships again, I know somebody that's called, they're called Ashtar, and a lot of people will know about Ashtar. And he's a protector of the earth, and he's also an awful lot more than that. But anyway, we called in Ashtar to sort this out, and he did sort it out. And the Pleiadians came as well with their spaceships. Now, I saw this happening as we was doing the work, and actually I was up in a spaceship when we were doing this. I was standing in the bridge of the spaceship with Ashtar standing beside me, and I could see the things that he was doing and where this vortex was going. And they completely and utterly stopped it, sealed it, and put different energy through it completely. Now, I know that has happened, and it made a huge difference where you were in your land. And then we found out that this vortex is also connected to many other bits in the world, and especially to Egypt and to the pyramids in Gaza. Now, I was told, I was told that long ago, there was a huge city underneath Gaza. And I've been doing some more work about that, and there is a city underneath Gaza. But this city underneath Gaza is an energy hub as well. It's a huge energy hub. And in this energy hub, it is connecting into the universe. And this, Emily, and I haven't told you this yet, but this is what the energy they were pulling out from there. And they were doing it like from the back door, as I would say. And his dad always told me, what's the point of going through the front door when you can go through the back door? And there's a lot of sense in that, because they say in the front door, they probably got all the protection in the world, but in the back door, they forget about it. So you just go in through the back door.
Wow.
That's what it did.
So we could see this connected in. It's incredible being able to ask the right questions, isn't it? You know, going into a space, and I know that people kind of go to sacred spaces and they may offer some flowers or they may offer a song. And really, when you connect with the spirits of the land and the guardians of the land, they will tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
And what I could see from this particular portal was that it was confusion was being created to avoid anybody actually seeing what's going on.
Yes.
And then we were having conversations on the phone that were getting interrupted, and we were even not able to make each other messages, and other strange things were happening just as we were getting closer and closer to uncovering what was actually going on at this portal. And we both have And this is the way things work. We both have connections with ancient Egypt. You know, we have connections. We had the soul knowledge on some level. You knew you had to come to the land. I knew that I had to come here, and we knew that we had to do this work. But it would have been so easy to kind of look at all the signs with the logic and go, this doesn't make any sense. But this is where it's really important to tune into and actually speak to the guardians and the portal keepers and really understand what's happening in those spaces, isn't it? Now, I didn't realize that there was energy could be siphoned from Mother Earth. But then at the same time, this happens all over. And why wouldn't that happen? Because when we look at the sacred wells, the sacred sites, mountains, you know, when anyone says they're going on holiday, it'll be some beautiful sacred feature of the earth that they will be going to visit. It's because they're energetic hubs and they're healing to people. And why would somebody not? Why would these beings not want to take some of that energy? Because that is, like you say, life force energy, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know they could siphon it off like that until I did this work with you. And that's the first time I've ever heard of this. It's siphoning off the energies, the life energy. Now, what they were doing with that energy, I have no idea, but I wasn't told that. And maybe better not to know. But it stopped. And by doing that, that will help the world. And it will help the goddess as well, because the goddess is leaking her energy, and that's not good, and being used to do and create something completely different. Now, the goddess, going back to what I'm getting just now, is going back to the goddess, and the energy is coming up through the earth, and it's a Mother Nature that's doing this, and it's a Mother Nature that's connecting us to the earth. It's what it is. It's the energy of the earth. And we need to connect into more and more of these energies. And by just walking in the country, just by walking by a tree, that's all you really need to do. And just be conscious of the energy that's there. Because that will pull the energy from the universe down into the earth. And this is a new way of getting the energy into the earth. And it's through us. Now,
Absolutely.
Just think about that. Just think about that, Emily. It is through us. So what are we?
We're the conduit, and we're the pilgrims as well.
Yeah.
You know, so in my later interviews, there are people who I'll be talking to who've done this pilgrimage up the Spine of Albion, where we are, a site on the Spine of Albion. And I'm also going to speak to a lady in Oxford as well, who's been doing singing into the estuaries there to support the flow of the energies. We are the walking ones, the ones who can transmit the energies. I call the human role the sacred dancer, because I love dancing, Derek, and I know that when we did that journey with the water, I was shown a real image of a whole community coming into water to be baptized as a ceremony. And they were swirling the water around, and then the water was getting rediverted up all these waterways, which I could see as like arteries. It was like we were in the heart and we were sending the water out. And when we connect on that level and see it as a being, that there's like a bigger being, a home, a sentient mother, and then that we're part of that, we are so different. You know, we function in a way which is just completely different. Do you want to speak into that?
Yes. Well, we are. And we are an amazing being. And I also, since the last time we spoke, I also go more on the DNA, if it's changing the people. Now, this frequency coming in is changing the DNA of the people. And the DNA is connected up to the consciousness as well. So yourselves is also changing, and your DNA is actually changing as well. So the new people that's coming, being born in this world, is totally going to be totally different from like me, because I'm an old one. This new energy is coming in, and this new way of being is coming in, and maybe we see it. Maybe we see it in the way the children is reacting nowadays compared to what it was. There's definitely something like that going on, and I was told that the DNA has been connecting up into the consciousness as well, so that it's changing. The DNA is changing. So, in doing this changing of DNA, which, remember, we've been under control so long, and they were controlling our DNA. So they were making us ill and making us not understand things in totally different ways. So all that's going to change. And it is changing.
It is changing. Just as you're talking about DNA there, I'm thinking about I did a planned journey last week, which was about the sage and the red clover. The message that came through from the red clover was that it was about bringing the love back into the center and reconnecting with each part of you. When I do healings and cord cuttings as a shamanic healer, I cut off the energies that are going to support other forces, other beings, whether that's relationships or organizations I like work or whatever that is, and really help people to bring that energy back to them. And that's what you're picking up on is happening not just with people but with the earth and with consciousness is coming back to that frequencies as not being taken over, I suppose, by other energies. So it's all coming through the heart. Final question, Derek, before we finish.
Yes.
What would you, because I started asking you about this, the experience that you had with the spaceship when you were 14-year-old. How do you understand, and we've talked about the land healing work that you've done, and now that you're up in the spaceship working with the Pleiadians, how do you feel about that now? Does it feel like abduction? What word would you use?
Well, as you know, the Pleiadians, it was the Pleiadians that took me up there, and they apologized to me for doing it that way. Yeah. They have apologized, and they apologized in a way that they really didn't understand the effect it was having on me and what's happening to me. So I accept their apologies and everything. And to me, I wasn't abducted. To me, it was just like part, I can see that now, it was like part of my journey that I've been doing. And I can only just say it about myself. I know other people have had other experiences and everything, but I can just speak about myself. And as I said, it was reconnecting me to the energies that I needed at this time.
Okay. So what advice would you give to somebody who has an imprint of an experience that they don't understand? What would you say to them?
Well, I tried to understand what happened to me, and I even went to people that hypnotize you and everything, but they couldn't get into me at all. They couldn't do it, and they said there's a huge block on you, Derek. He says, and this was a therapist, and he said, and I went to more than one therapist, and they said to me that there's a huge block on you. They don't know what it is, but he says we can't get into it. But he says it'll be released when it needs to be released, and that's exactly what it was. But at that time, I was carrying the soul of all, and I know they didn't want the soul of all to be shown. So in a way, I was blocked completely off.
Yeah. Until
I met you and we did this work, and it all came together. And then I was told what it was.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Once I've done the work on it, and the soul of all went away from it. And by the way, the soul of all always connects into me. I'm always, and they always say that I'm going to be the soul of all, whatever that is. It's a soul. It's an energy. So it's never going to be away from me. And as for the galactic energy, as for the energies, there's an awful lot to be said about what's happening up in the cosmos, and there's a lot of interesting things happening at this time up there too. There really is.
And we will tell more stories, I'm sure. I'm so thrilled to kind of be able to bring your story through today, because what it gives me is an opportunity just to speak into the importance of story and the importance of the way that we understand things, because I don't want to be talking to people in the future about alien abductions, because I don't believe that is really what happens. I personally, from what I've witnessed, I believe that there is a soul contract with the person, and there's a reason that it's happening for co-creation. I also have the experience that we had on the portal of this land, which feels more like an alien abduction, but I'm going to call it an alien siphoning. And, isn't it interesting how when we don't know things, we kind of put things in these boxes? And I just think that when you actually speak to it and you understand people's personal experiences, you can really understand the story. So what an absolute blessing, Derek, to hear you today. I know there will be people who will be hanging on your every word and will be so comforted by what you said. And I know that it was the right thing to bring through today. So thank you so, so much. Thank you. Without end.
Well, thank you. Well, I thank you, Emily, for giving me the opportunity to speak, because I've had this knowledge in me for a long, long time, and it's time for me to share all this knowledge. And I've been told that I need to do this more and more. So I thank you, Emily. And to this time, I bow in front of you, because that's what they do. And I bow in front in a recognizing of you. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. What an honour, Derek. See you all next time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'll see you the next time. Bye.
Bye. Bye.